Welcome to IWM Duxford, the perfect location for today's story and the challenge that you are going to be set by our friends at the Skylab. Whilst it is now part of Imperial War Museums, IWM Duxford was once known as RAF Duxford, and it is closely linked to one of the most famous airplanes ever, the Spitfire. During the Second World War, RAF Duxford was home to 19 Squadron. A squadron is just a fancy name for a team, and in this case the team was planes, pilots and ground crew who all worked together. During the Battle of Britain in 1941, RAF Duxford and the Spitfires based here were vital to the effort to prevent the threatened enemy invasion. Our story today is focusing on the combination of great pilot skill, great logistics and great engine design that was vital to the success of the Battle of Britain. Working through the 1930s, R.J. Mitchell said he wanted to create a plane where the most outstanding important feature was speed, and every other feature had to be sacrificed to meet that demand. Fired by this ambition, he worked to engineer everything from the narrow fuselage to the elliptical wings, and collaborated with Rolls-Royce, who were working on a new engine, the Merlin. Mitchell continued to constantly modify and improve the specifications of his creation. The final mark of Spitfire was the F-24. That tells us there were 24 different marks or versions, and each mark is an upgrade, modifying and maximising the engine's performance, fuel efficiency and ensuring that the Spitfire's speed was never compromised no matter what the altitude or the conditions. Knowing all of these design details will help you to get the best from the amazing 3D resource made by Perception Codes. There's a link at the bottom of this page. So we've got the Spitfires being modified and made in factories, but they've got to get to the airfields. Obviously the easiest way to get them there is to fly them, but who's going to do the flying? Certainly not the desperately needed pilots of 19 Squadron. The answer was provided by the formation of the ATA, the Air Transport Auxiliary, a group of men who due to injury or age were unable to fly into battle, but who certainly knew their way around an aircraft. Although the ATA was originally formed as a male organisation, thanks to the determination of a female stunt pilot, Pauline Gower, 168 women were eventually to join the ATA and earn equal work and equal pay. Not only did Pauline love flying the Spitfire, she was also appreciative of the complexity of its engineering. She remembered, "When I first studied the intricacies of aircraft construction, I was astonished to realise how many parts there were and how greatly one part depended on another. Any weakness in one link was sufficient to break the chain and cause disaster." Your challenge is going to focus on one link in that intricate chain. And to explain the chemistry of combustion, that mixture of atoms and molecules that propelled the Spitfire, I'm going to hand over to Jeff at Skylab.
So welcome to this challenge. It's a challenge where we're going to really think about science, and we're going to think about chemistry. And chemistry is all about atoms and molecules. The atoms and molecules that make us what we are, that make up all the materials and everything around us, what we call matter. And atoms and molecules make the mighty Merlin engine, its propeller, and also the fuel that powers the Rolls-Royce Merlin. So if we think about the Merlin engine, we know that to turn that propeller, we need some form of energy. And the energy is provided by the fuel that goes in to the engine. And the fuel is pumped into the Merlin engine. And when it gets pumped into the Merlin engine, it is ignited, so it combusts. And when it combusts, it generates heat and energy, and that turns a big powerful crank which turns a shaft which is connected to the propeller. And the more fuel is pumped, ignited and combusted in the engine, the faster the propeller turns. Now the fuel is made up of what we call hydrocarbons that carbon and hydrogen all joined together in a molecule, and that's what makes fuel. Now the fuel is very, very combustible, so it ignites. And as it ignites, the bonds between the carbons and the hydrogen atoms in the molecules, they are released, they generate energy, and that energy is what helps turn the Merlin engine and drive and rotate the propeller. So the more fuel that is combusted, the faster the propeller goes. And the faster the propeller goes, the faster the Spitfire goes. So today we're going to complete a task, and that task is for you to simulate what happens when the Spitfire engine uses more fuel. And we're going to do that by using a hairdryer. So we're going to have two speeds. We're going to have a low speed and a faster speed. The lower speed means less fuel, the faster speed means more fuel being used. So your task is to make a model propeller. We're going to see what happens when we use more fuel and what happens when we also change the pitch of our propeller. And the pitch of a blade is the angle at which the propeller blade moves through the air. And the pitch of our propeller is really important because the pitch changes the way a propeller passes through the air molecules to generate the forward thrust. The more pitch that we have, the more thrust. The less pitch that we have, the less thrust. But the more pitch that we have, the more air resistance and the more fuel that we need. So that's how fuel is used to power the Merlin engine. Good luck with your model making and your experimenting. From me now, it's over to Nairi at Duxford.
Thanks, Jeff. What a great challenge. And now you have all the information you need to build and test your own propeller. In fact, when you glue the paper cutout onto the card, you're not far off the real construction of the Spitfire's propeller, which was built up of thin layers of birchwood, layer by layer, to form the thick, strong wooden propellers. One of the advantages of being at Duxford today is we've got a real Spitfire propeller on a real Spitfire. And looking closely, you can even see the pitch of the blade that Jeff mentioned and that you're going to fold carefully into your model. Don't forget to check out the amazing 3D resource made by Perception Codes. There's a link to it at the bottom of this page. And now, as we're at IWM Duxford and we've got a real Spitfire with a real Spitfire propeller, it seems appropriate to say, start the Spitfire!